All right, so gonna pull jack both subframes to again get that bolt out, drop that down, and slide the spacer in between there, put our new bolt and washer on it. So that's the plan for the front. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for, before I get going on that, I'm gonna go finish painting this pipe. All right, so we got the bolts out. Now you see, your spacer's gonna go in there. So the front ones are long, the back ones are short. And here's the difference. So this is a front bolt, this is a back bolt. Obviously you can't get those confused, but you could. So like I said, with the pull jack here, you can do this with a regular jack. We're gonna lower it down real slow, get our gap in there, just about right there. And then we're gonna take one of these washers, spacers, I should say. And you see the hole is really small. And this hole is large. So it's real mission critical that you slide that guy in there like so. Look down here and make sure everybody's all lined up perfectly before you try to get your bolt in there, because you do not want to cross thread one of those welded nuts internally. You'll hate life. So Eurowise gives you your own bolts, your own washers. Right here, 2 long, 2 short for the front. So we're gonna take 2 of these and 2 of these, get them in there, get them all started, snug them up by hand. I'll use this guy, but I won't give it a ton of beans, but I'll get them snugged up, and then we'll do the torque, which I believe they also have on here. Well, at least I thought they did. It's like 195 foot-pounds, I think. Oh, there you go. Has it right on the thing. 125 foot-pounds. So, anyways, we'll keep rolling. All right, so now we're gonna come in with a couple pro tips. I like to use anti-seize on anything that's going into a subframe. But anyways, use that. There you go. Now, you might have seen in the time lapse that I was prying the subframe back and forth, because anything I'm rocking it, it moves all over the place. That's gonna directly affect the alignment on these tires. So we're gonna have to probably realign her once we run these all tight. So now I'm gonna run these all up very lightly with my impact gun, and then we'll get the torque wrench out and we'll hit them with the torque wrench. So we went and raided Cameron's toolbox because my torque wrench is missing. So we're gonna set this thing to, somehow, once I figure out how to work it. There it is. Foot-pounds. And if you look on your spacer, it says 125. So we're gonna ramp this sucker up to 125 foot-pounds, and then, so there you go. I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably hard to read. It says 125. So we're gonna start with the front ones. Now, this is big extension, but if you look on the internet, they don't believe extensions really affect torque. So we're gonna give this thing a couple ratchets, because like I said, I didn't give it a ton of tightening with the gun. And the cool thing about the snap-on wrench is it'll tell you the whole time as you get closer. So it'll beep. You see those lights on it? Maybe you can't, maybe you can. There you go, there's one. I'm sure you heard that noise too. There was a little bit of water in those threads. I blew it out, put some anti-seize on it, but still sounded a little weird. But that's another reason to use anti-seize, because that won't tear up the bolt or the thread holes. Okay. You go back to the gym. Okay, there they are. Now we'll move on to the back one. I'm going to take the extension off because I don't need it. And we'll get these to 125. And then minus your alignment, you're pretty much done. The rears are the same procedure. All right, one more to go. And that's the front four. On to the rear four. All right, side note, I've also put 100 miles or so on these silver coilovers, and the rears on the Touareg are a big pain in the butt. Cayenne, everything, they're real tight. So you can see this spring has a ton of preload on it, and this spring I can kind of move it. I got to take the preload out of this spring, because what it means when you have preload is it means you're using the spring and more than you're using the shock. So you're kind of riding the spring, you're not letting the thing do its job. So we're going to loosen this, turn it back a couple turns. It will probably only take 2 or 3 turns to get that spring kind of loose in the perch. So we'll do that same time we're doing the rear sub. All right. Turbo inlet. We got some light finally. Project for 2025 in both shops is more lighting. It's like relatively well lit over there, and then it gets dark as hell over here. So, and it's not very sunny outside, so I don't have the doors open. And even if it is sunny outside, we run the air conditioning. So more lighting, but back to this project at hand. So this is the CATA motor, which means it has an injection pump up here, or technically there. It's run by an external belt. It's got electronic motors for the swirl flaps, which are under the manifold. It's got the top-mounted EGR cooler, and this is like an EK21 turbo is what they're called in the industry. So this is our turbo inlet, and you can see it's got the muffler section. This is a muffler kind of section, so it doesn't make that crazy turbo noise, which we actually like, but apparently for most people they don't want to hear. So now I've got the pipe that goes here painted. So we're gonna go get that. We're gonna pull the mass airflow sensor out of our old box right here, use our supplied new hardware and get it in the pipe and start working on this thing. We ran into our first issue. Those little bolts are not in my hardware bag. So I'm gonna have to go find those unless they want me to use the ones out of the stock airbox. So, all right, I thought they had done me dirty, but you need a tamper-proof 20 and you use your stock hardware in the mass airflow sensor. So I got the stock hardware there. I'm gonna screw this in. All right, so now I gotta get this thing about where she goes, which is right about there. So I'm gonna tighten one of those clamps, just kind of hold it in place till I get everything else kind of where I want it. All right, so I really can't, we had to modify this pipe a little bit. So shorter coupler over here, angle up here. So here is the point and overturn. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill kind of enough holes to get a Sawzall blade in, kind of slowly make a circle. So here we go. And then make sure All right, so we've cut a hole, trying to get this pipe to kind of bend more, but then I think it needs to land like right about there for the angle to be right, because it's got to follow this fender well up. I'm going to get the rest of that mocked up first and kind of work my way backwards. So we'll see how this goes. It's gonna look sweet though. Well, for those that work on their own rigs, subframe spacers, man, that was like 45 minutes, not even. This was the rest of the day. So the engine cover fits, which is cool. So you really can't see the hose clamp and pipe I spent way too much time painting. So comes down here, MAF is in. I cut their bend off because I needed a little bit more this way motion with this air filter. Got the clamps in there all tight. This is for the washer reservoir, so I'm gonna get they make a billet one for like the Mark 7s, so I'm gonna get that mounted to this little screw hole right here. And then again, I cut the hole too big, so I gotta finish that up, but it's on there. I put 2 rib nuts in there. I glued them in to not get water. I got the dark side little 3D printed snorkel thing, which I will also glue on once it's done. But once I think, oh God, as I trip and die, once that gets wrapped, it'll look pretty meaty. So here's what it sounds like. All right, so this is Malone Stage 1. So it is ridiculously loud with the windows down. I mean, that thing is just singing. Also, my mass airflow sensor went bad. Guess it didn't like getting manhandled. But listen to this thing. With the windows up, it's pretty tame. Make the turn back into the parking lot. She definitely got the suck noise. So, next job, get this thing wrapped up. Put some gas in it, because that sucker is nearly empty. All right, so anyways, now that the mass airflow sensor is plugged in the right way, because you'll see in the photos after this is what it sounds like revving. That's what it sounds like when the mass airflow sensor actually works. On the Eurowise spacer install. So got her on the alignment rack. Believe it or not, it was almost dead money, except for the rear toe. But it really probably would have been fine because I'm just a stickler. But it actually got my alignment back where I wanted it. Like I said, I got those Expedition specs, which I'm going to post right now. They'll be the next thing over. But otherwise, productive Saturday. The snorkel was a motherfucker. Excuse my French.